Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good welcome to everybody on episode 20 of Theory of Anything.
Oh dear.
Hello, Oh, there's a new voice. Hello, welcome. Special guest Beth, especially.
Hello. Good
How are
morning.
you?
How are you? I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
It's very nice to have you with us, Beth.
Thank you. It's
And
nice to
we're
meet
going to hear a little bit about you in a moment, but welcome to the other regulars. Hello, gents.
I've never been referred to as a regular before.
Are you a regular?
That's nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's are you a grande or a regular?
Ah,
As in a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
you see.
nice.
Yeah. I'll have a regular Americano or a grande Americano.
Or a regular podcaster.
Oh, all right then. If you're the regular, welcome Devon Grande.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, oh no.
you.
I feel better than
How are you both?
Good, thank you.
You all good?
Yeah.
So let's go to the real important person here today and just say a proper welcome to Beth. And how are you, Beth?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. I'm really good. I love listening to your podcast, so it's really nice for you guys to have me today. Thank you very much.
Marvelous to have you with us. So before we get into the meat of the episode, some pickups and obviously our segments as we normally like to do, let's just hear a little bit from you about who you are and why you're here. How did you? That's what we say at church at the beginning of an alpha course or something. Tell us who you are and why you're here, or whatever whatever you'd like to say about yourself. Yeah.
No worries. So, hi everybody. I'm married to Ford. I've been married to Ford almost 4 years now, which means I'm kind of related to everybody in this podcast. So I'm the
Indeed.
daughter-in-law and the dreaded sister-in-law. You've also had my brother Tim on here, so it's it's nice.
Yes,
nice
that's
to be
right.
here as well.
Cool.
I've been listening to podcasts for since you started, and as a result, we've had some stiff debate going on in our household about rhino versus bear, or indeed Husband Appreciation Day. So, yeah, I know. Still waiting for Wife Appreciation Day. There we go. What else? I love Star Trek. Do love Star Trek. I like Star Wars, which means there might be some debate because I love Star Trek and like Star Wars.
There's a difference between love and like. Yeah.
There you go. Sorry, but that's okay. I really enjoyed Georgette Hire as well. So obviously you guys did Snowdrift, which I appreciated listening to.
Very good.
And lastly, I'd say I'm very much a nostalgic retro kind of gamer. So I've been playing the original Sims forever. Until my laptop couldn't take it. So that's just a little bit about me. It's a bit sad when it said goodbye to Sims, but there we are.
So you sound like the ideal demographic for our podcast, and which is why you've been such an enthusiastic listener. And I think you've just highlighted some of them. You've often sent us little clips, little feedbacks that we've read out on the show and things like that. Some good information that's helped us to get better understanding, haven't you? So it's nice to have you on here in person. We actually hear your voice.
Thank you very much.
Good. So, folks, we've got quite a few things before we get to the first segment to discuss from. We've had a lot of input and feedback and some bits of news and things. So who's going to start? Shall I start? Or
Yeah, go for it.
you okay? First and foremost, let's get it out of the way. I have yesterday taken delivery of my new iPhone SE 2020.
Wow.
After hearing Devon's recommendation of it, I did lots of research. My update was due, so I thought, well, let's go for it. Let's have a look. So, it meant trading in my old iPhone SE. I got 35 quid off for that. So, so it's worth it, I think. It's a small sacrifice. But some of the stuff about it, if you're happy with the old style phone body, it's obviously identical to the iPhone 8. So I now have a work phone and a personal phone that look identical, which may be a slightly problematic. One's black, one's space grey and one's white, so that helps. But the processing power of this beast is amazing.
Yeah. Ooh.
I think apparently it is equal processing than many of the flagship phones, isn't it, Devon?
Yeah, it's the same A13 chip that's in the iPhone 11 Pro.
Yeah, and because it has less functional features, I suppose. People are saying actually you could consider it the most powerful iPhone on the market. Yeah, so I'm pleased with it so far. Still setting it up and getting it how I want it, but yeah, good stuff. Yeah, but while we're on the subject of phones, Devon, I've whilst I was doing my review searching on YouTube, I noticed somebody made a very valuable point with because I like the fingerprint recognition rather than the face recognition, and somebody said all these people who've got face recognition cameras now will be likely to be encouraged and increasingly be encouraged to wear face coverings. Our phones aren't going to know who we are anymore.
It's true.
Could be a problem. Could be a problem going forward. Yeah.
But you can say the same thing about gloves and like protection gloves.
Yeah.
Fingerprint recognition. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I guess so. And I thought of that. Yeah. Thankfully, in my line of work, I rarely have to wear face coverings, or I do have to wear gloves, but that's always been the case. So, yeah, interesting though.
Very nice.
Okay, move on. What's next?
Yes, I had something I wanted to bring since Beth's here, and I know perhaps you like Star Trek. So, some Star Trek news on the nerdosphere. Apparently, I'm quoting now, due to the success of Star Trek Discovery and Picard, which is strange because I thought they were pretty bad, but CBS are making a new hopeful series of Star Trek. They're calling it Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We follow Captain Pike and Spock, who, as I understand it, appeared in the last couple of episodes of Star Trek Discovery. Not as their film actors portrayed, but a new sort of imagining of them.
Yeah.
They're saying it's going to be a classic Star Trek show that deals with optimism and the future.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you like them apples?
Don't all the other Star Trek series deal with optimism in the future?
You thought, wouldn't you?
You'd like to think so, yeah.
No, Picard and Discovery have been quite depressing, I feel.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know why the success of those would inspire a hopeful series, but
yeah. Going back to go on. Sorry, Beth, carry on.
That's all right. No. When did you say that was coming out?
people are guessing 2022.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So not for a while yet, but they have just told us this, so that's good.
Okay.
I actually did quite like Picard, but I think it generally wasn't that well appreciated amongst many other people.
Yeah.
Fans. It took a while to get going, and it was only 6 or 8 episodes. I think 8 episodes was it? But as I think after episode 4, it improves when they finally get into space. But yeah, anyway, it's a complicated plot.
It took too long to get going. I watched like 2 episodes, and I was like,
and you gave up.
Yeah, it's still just sitting on the earth going, "Oh, I used to be an admiral or whatever." And I was like,
yeah,
come on, let's go.
That was a beautiful impression. Thank you.
It is worth it if you stick with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Thank you for bringing Star Trek news. Well done. The other thing I wanted to share with you is some feedback from my friend Dave. We discussed, I think it was in episode 18, the SpaceX launch, if you remember rightly.
Yes.
And I mentioned then that if Dave, my friend, who's an avid listener to the show, if he could get back to us with an answer to a question I had, and I'll read it to you because then I can read his answer. Where was the answer? Can you answer why it took 19 hours to dock with the ISS? This is for obviously the Dragon spacecraft from SpaceX. Carrying on. As it only took 10 minutes to travel 600 miles from the launch pad. The other thing I asked was, I said there was quite a lot of Apollo missions.
Which one's the last one?
But I couldn't remember what the last one was. He begins by saying, just heard the question you posed. Thanks, Andy. Yes, it was Apollo 17. It was planned to go up to 20, but funding was pulled by Congress due to the extortionate amount of money it was costing the American taxpayers. And then he carries on to say, in answer to the question about why it took 19 hours, well, it's basically like trying to hit a speeding bullet from another speeding bullet. Complicated and very complex stuff. once they've achieved a certain height above Earth, say 60 to 80 miles, they have to do the next 170 to 180 miles very gradually. Because, let's face it, if they approach the ISS at a speed of anything greater than 3 to 5 miles an hour, they'd overshoot big time.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So the last bit is very, very slow, creeping up to it, obviously, yeah. Which I think I did mention that could be a problem.
Yeah, but 3 miles an hour.
Arriving at 1,000 miles an hour would be not a good thing. Yeah, well, it's a docking speed, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah,
Docking speed. When you make contact, you have to be probably very slow. And when I say, back to Dave's reply, and when I say approach, I don't just mean within the last few meters. I mean within the last 100 to 80 miles.
Oh.
You may say,
wow.
yeah, so that's the speed you have to do the last 80 odd miles. Yeah. Which would allow for a good amount of that 19 hours, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You may say, oh, just fire some retro rockets to slow Dragon down. But that would mean using up a hell of a lot of extra fuel, which is something that is not factored into the equation due to the extremely limited payload restraints regarding the Dragon capsule. Plus, think of the scenario of how long it takes to stop a massive oil tanker. You have to start braking many, many miles beforehand. The vacuum of space is just like that when manoeuvring. It's very much a case of slowly is more. I dare say that in the not too distant future, things will change and more faster direct flights will be possible with larger fuel payloads taken aboard. Funnily enough, strange but true, the early space probes out to the planets used to get there faster in the 1970s than they do now. Mainly because nowadays, instead of taking up loads of expensive heavy fuel to speed up the flights, they now take up a lot less fuel on board and instead use planetary gravitational assists, also known as the slingshot method, in order to power the long flights to the planets. This is to the distant planets in the solar system. It takes a lot longer, but is much cheaper and allows more instruments to be loaded on board instead of large amounts of rocket fuel. NASA have also used a couple of ion engines, which used energized ion particles to power the craft in space. A hell of a lot slower than rockets, but again, so much cheaper. So there we are. A lot of information there.
He's a clever chap, isn't he?
He is. He knows his stuff when it comes to space exploration and astronomical things. Yeah. So thank you, Dave, for replying to I think it was my question. The others probably weren't that bothered, but it was just an interesting thought that why does it take 19 hours to travel 240 miles when you're actually traveling at 25,000 kilometers per hour? Anyway, there's your answer. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, nice.
And while you've got me on the mic doing pickups, I just wanted to mention, I think it's only fair that we do, the actor Ian Holm, who sadly died the day before we're recording now on Friday. What is it? Friday the 19th, he died. And I only mention him mainly because he's a fine actor and also has appeared in many of the things that we've talked about on our podcasts over the last 20 episodes, including he played Ash, the robot, the maniac robot in Alien, the first Alien film. I think he was Bilbo Baggins, the elder version in Hobbit.
And Lord of the Rings.
And Lord of the Rings, yeah. And also another a series that got a fleeting mention was The Borrowers. Yeah.
I've never seen Borrowers.
Oh, but you mentioned The Borrowers.
Yeah, as a joke.
You've never seen Borrowers?
As a joke. Yeah. So, rest in peace, Ian Holm.
Yeah.
Bless him. A great actor. Yeah.
Died 88, apparently.
Yeah. Right, final pickup, I think, Devon.
On a lighter, more exciting note, we got some exciting Theory of Anything news. You may have seen around our various postings, like on Twitter, that we have released or we have designed some new T-shirts.
Ooh.
Lovely.
So
Yes.
we haven't got an actual official website, so if you do want one, just email us and we'll get one for you. But they're very cool, and it does help us out. We don't really get any money from them. There's no like commission or anything like that. It's just if you want to help expose the podcast, then it obviously will help having our name out and about. So only order if you're actually going to wear it.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Trying to raise the profile a little bit.
Yeah, but we're very excited just for ourselves to wear them around, and it's just cool.
Yeah, is there a link on YouTube? How do we? On Twitter, there is, isn't there?
Yeah,
there's an image on
Twitter.
YouTube with the different colours and different size chart.
There's 6 different colours and obviously the size chart and everything. But as I say, just email our normal email address.
If you want to find out more. Okay.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry it took so long, but I think that is all of our pickups from previous episodes and a bit of new news going on there.
Excellent.
So Beth, very welcome to join in with all of our conversations throughout the episode, and then after Ford, who's going first, you will bring something of your own to.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
Ford's segment subject.
You know, my fellow geeks and geek guest, it feels like since the beginning of television, we've had cop shows and lawyers and doctors and detectives, and they've been the heroes of this age, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But a new phenomena has flown across our screens in the form of superheroes. Now, since 2002, when Sam Raimi released his Spider-Man film, the interest in superheroes has built and built. I wanted to ask you guys, do you think there are too many superheroes at this point? We're talking 18 years later, the Marvel Universe has done its thing, kind of. What do you think?
Yes.
No.
100%. I've thought about this before, and there's a superhero for every universe, for every power. And it's like you've got the same guy does the exact same thing on DC as he does on Marvel, but it's called a slightly different thing, and it's just like it's a bit oversaturated.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, I agree with that in terms of if you're including comics and kind of general superheroes all over the place. In terms of film, I'd say that they've tried. I mean, particularly Marvel, they've tried to kind of have not necessarily too many superheroes. They've tried to, introduce them slowly and kind of build up their characters a bit more rather than just shoving them all in there. So from a film perspective, I'd say perhaps not too many. I think I'm quite happy with them. But yeah, on when you go back into the comics and everything, I mean, I agree. Devon's right. You literally get everything. So.
I think there's always going to be a market for geeks, for people who are interested in the comics. They're always going to want more films, but that's not any of you guys, is it?
No.
So, Paps, what do you think?
I think if it's true, we've only got ourselves to blame. I think Devon has mentioned that before. If you like it, you buy it. If you don't, you don't. So
it won't sell. Yeah,
it did seem a lot simpler. I can't keep up at the moment. It's just too many characters and too many film universes to. You can't stay abreast of it all. Surely, it's. How can you have the same depth of knowledge about? There's just too much. There's too much quality TV out there and film. I think maybe the film universe is easier to keep when it comes to television series. We are a bit inundated, aren't we, with quality TV? I know you're maybe not talking about necessarily TV as much as you are film, are you? But I think that would be my feeling. But I'm not. I think that there must be a demand for it. So the few of us perhaps who are overwhelmed can't really complain because obviously other people are enjoying it.
Well, I think since Endgame, obviously the Marvel Universe has been building up to this final point where Thanos comes and tries to wipe out the universe, and it feels like since then, for me, it's been sort of okay, so where are we going to go now? Like, what's fresh? So I was wondering, especially since Devon said he definitely thinks it's all wrong. What do you think they need to do to re-excite you in your interest in superheroes? What do they need to bring you back?
I think if it was more streamlined and more localized, how it used to be. Remember Spider-Man getting crooks, that kind of thing, rather than like all these superheroes trying to get this big purple monster that can blow up the universe. It's just like it's big. When you push it to the extreme so much, nothing is extreme anymore. And it'd be actually very interesting to have like a gritty film that is very localized to a particular city, like Spider-Man's used to be, or like Batman's used to be, and they're just trying to get one particular crook or something like that, and their struggles in that.
Okay, fair enough. Again. What about Paps?
I don't know what else I can add, to be honest.
Well, they've started going down a dark, gritty route in terms of Deadpool, who's always doing the rude jokes.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about that because this superhero genre appeals to a younger generation, and we are seeing a much darker element emerging, aren't we? In my time as a youngster, Superman and Spider-Man were there was no dark side to them, and Batman. I mean, even in the Batman universe, we've seen, and they're my three go-to superheroes, I suppose, but they're just a small minutiae of what's out there now, isn't it? All three of those were inherently good people without a undertone of their own inner struggles. It feels like filmmakers have had to generate or manufacture some kind of inner struggle within. I might be wrong, but that's how it appears to me.
Yeah.
To make it grittier, which is what I think Devon said. What did you say?
I said to make it grittier, but I didn't mean darker. I just meant more. I don't know, more down to earth, less like big flashing lights. Just more real.
Yeah.
Beth, what do you think? Is it like you happy with the way they are going, or do you want something new now?
I know that. That's a difficult thing. I mean, I'm always going to want. I always love happy endings. Anybody who knows me will know I always love happy endings. But equally, with that, as you say, you get to the end of the story, don't you? You want new things, and I have to say, I think I really agree. I'm not sure how much more I'd have to add. I think there is always that push to go bigger and better, and then it does start to get into the ridiculous phase, doesn't it? I don't think that I don't think it's wrong to kind of go towards the superhero thing. I think obviously people need a lot of hope, and it's rather important, to kind of have those ideals that actually the good guy can win, and that actually people can use their technology and their skills for good. If you think about people like Iron Man or Bruce Wayne or things like that, but I don't know. I think it's $1 million question that many people are asking all over the world, but I don't know the answer. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought it was quite interesting because my mother-in-law, she watched Ant-Man and Wasp the other day, and she came to me and said, it was really fun, but at the end, obviously, a lot of the main characters disappear. What's that about? And it's obviously because you were supposed to watch Infinity War, and at the end of Infinity War, Thanos snaps his finger, and half the universe dies or whatever. Right. And when she asked me that, I was like, right, how do I explain this? There's a lot here.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting anyway.
So you've got to be part of all of it to actually understand one film.
Yeah, it can be like that now, yeah.
I agree. I mean, I know you've got all the Marvel films, haven't you, Ford?
Yes.
And you've encouraged me to try and watch them in a particular order, which you kind of... I know when I was around your house last time, I think you lent me Iron Man, I think was the first one, wasn't it?
It is, yeah.
But I'm struggling to motivate myself to do that because it seems like such a long journey.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Where can people start?
There's a lot of superhero to consume, isn't there? If you're going to get your head around it all.
What do you think the next fad is then? If superheroes is dying, I don't know if we're saying that or not, but we've had obviously monsters. I don't know. What do you think? Because I know there's a Dark Universe. Was it Universal are trying to kick off, where they've got this Invisible Man film. They're doing a Dracula, I think, and what else is there? I think they did another Frankenstein. They're trying to reintegrate a new universe. They're sort of doing a Marvel superhero universe, but for monsters, as it were.
See, I've often wondered whether they might go down with the superhero universe and do like alternative realities, and kind of, explore what would happen, if, I don't know, if there was. I mean, I know they've kind of done like an alternative with Venom and Spider-Man and taking over and things like that, but I think, like for example in the comics, they talk about Captain America actually not being a nice guy, and whether perhaps they kind of. But again, if they do go down that route of alternative realities, are we going to see more positive sides of superheroes? That's the thing. So as you say, they are getting more dark as they go. So that's something I've wondered about.
That's interesting, but again, that's going to alienate the common viewer, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think we're probably going to, well, the way I see things going, maybe not in terms of superhero ways, but the next new fad is probably films based off a true story or documentary type films, because people are very interested in what actually happened in history. I think they, obviously, I think Trinity disagrees with this, but she's very people very want to know, oh, this actually happened, and it makes them more excited watching it, being like, oh, this could actually happen to me, like it's plausible, it's possible.
Wow, fair enough.
It's a constant demand for new content, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I have to say I really like what Devon just said about this kind of based on a true story. I think one of the things when he was talking about that made me think of the film Still Alice, and about how that's talking about dementia and people. Mental health is a thing that people talk about quite freely now. So obviously with the whole thing of trying to be relevant, trying to make it okay to talk about, and I think that will kind of be reflected in films like Still Alice. I mean, Still Alice was incredible. About how this. Sorry if nobody's seen it. It's about this lady. I think she's early 40s. And it's about how she gets diagnosed with dementia. Of course, dementia is associated with something with people who are kind of much older, and about how that affects family life. And it's very real. Yeah, it's
early onset dementia. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, so things like that. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Okay.
Well, I think that about wraps up my segment.
We can't answer your question. Sorry, Ford.
No, well, like Beth says, it's the $1 million question, isn't it?
We weren't ever going to expect it to, were
we? I reckon it's going to go down the fantasy route, but that's just me. Like, we've got loads of fantasy, maybe solo films, I'd say, or TV shows, but I'm waiting. Well, I mean, I'm not waiting, but I'm expecting a big cinematic universe, so like Marvel have done with solo films that all slammed together. Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go, but that's just me.
Okay.
On with the show.
Welcome, special guest.
What I wanted to talk to you guys about in my little segment, so Beth said the segment subject, is I wanted to chat to you about money, which is obviously a little bit of a taboo subject, so I'm not trying to start any debates or anything, but specifically I wanted to chat to you about saving it. I've called this little segment, this time next year will be Millionaires, which is obviously from Only Fools and Horses. And I was saying that I've been on holiday this week, so it means I've had a lot of time to watch up on lots of reality TV and Only Fools and Horses. But one of the things I've been seeing on YouTube is episodes that are called Extreme Cheapskates. And just to clarify, these are lots of people who are actually living they can afford to live a more expensive lifestyle, but they choose not to. So it's not just money, students and stuff like that. But basically, I wanted to chat to you guys, obviously in good old Del Boy fashion. Would you guys say that you've ever haggled? And would you say that you're quite good at haggling at all? Somebody feel free to define haggling if you think. But what do you think?
What a great question.
No, I haven't, and no, I'm bad at it, I'm sure.
Yeah. What a great question.
Why haven't I? I guess I feel like people should pay for what something's worth.
Okay.
Also, I don't like confrontation, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you guys, Devon and Paps? Have you ever haggled?
Definitely yes. I've definitely haggled before.
He drives a hard bargain, do you, Devon?
Yeah. Things on top of my head, I bought Red Dead for £10 cheaper than it was labelled.
How? What?
Just because I was telling them, it's a bit too expensive, I might go to this other store, blah blah blah.
Okay.
When I was looking to have my phone repaired, your phone now, I got that down £5, but I didn't go through anyway. When my internet was being installed, they tried to charge me about £70-80, and I haggled out of that completely.
Wow.
Completely?
Yeah, I didn't pay anything.
Oh, my days.
Well done.
Careful, you'll get people wanting to hire you.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a salesman, so I mean, it's my thing.
It works both ways, I guess,
It
doesn't
does.
it? Yeah.
I quite enjoy it. And before I was living with Beck, before we got married, she would often she got her iPhone 6 just from walking into the first 3 store that she could see, just going for whatever deal they say. And I was just like, don't do that. Just come talk to me and I'll get a good deal. Like, we'll look further. And
you don't.
Yeah, so since then we've been doing quite well. But
wow.
Okay.
I'm impressed. I'm more in Devon, Ford's camp, I think. Yeah. I admire people who seem to do it without any qualms. I feel a little bit like Ford that actually, if a product has a certain value, if we diminish that value too much, are we not hurting somebody else by? But if it's a big conglomerate, then fair enough. But if you're haggling over, I don't know, a self-employed workman or something like that, then that's harder to justify. Well, one thing that just came to my mind was my wife Christine. Remember her from episode 10? That seems a long time ago. We love watching A Place in the Sun, which is where people go and they look at 5 different properties, usually in and around the Mediterranean, and they choose one if they like one they saw, and the asking price might be 80 grand or something like that. Say that's probably an average, and they'll say, yes, we'd like to make an offer, and we're going to offer 55 grand for an 80 grand property. Yeah. And I think, what? That's cheeky, that is, when they might have had an £85,000 budget at the beginning of the show. But I want to replace the kitchen, so I'm going to offer them 50 grand for you know what I mean, knock 30 grand off. And I really feel for the seller. And I think, yeah, but that property is valued at what it's valued at. I know they probably, you always value something with that possibility that it's going to be brought down. But it just feels to me a little bit immoral. That's when it's done like that anyway. Sometimes they get away with it though. That's the annoying thing. They might get £20,000 or £30,000 knocked off the value of their property. Or the cost of their property, rather. The value is still the same.
I can't really understand how it would be immoral when everyone would have to consensually say, yes, I agree to this deal.
I know, but sometimes they're over a barrel, aren't they? The seller might be over a barrel.
Oh yeah, but then you might as well, if you weren't there at all, they'd be in the same situation.
Yeah.
But it's like, what was I going to say? Everything has a different value to everyone. So just because this one estate agent values this house at a certain amount, doesn't mean that you should be willing to pay that certain amount, because it may be a different value to you. You may respect your money more than you respect your home, for instance.
Yeah. Tricky.
Okay. Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of research on this, and I'm sorry I can't have more up-to-date statistics, but the reviewer Which. They surveyed in October 2017. They surveyed 2,000 people. 58% of them had said that they'd haggled on various different things like phone contracts, insurance, and things like that. And on average, they had saved £725 per year because they'd haggled, which, as you can imagine, is quite a lot.
Yeah, nice.
I know, it's amazing.
Go on a nice holiday for that.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, exactly. And with this YouTube thing with extreme cheapskates, I wanted to just give you a few examples and see if you would actually be willing to haggle in the same way that they have over them. So, obviously, we've mentioned phone contracts already, but would you, for example, be comfortable haggling with the price per head for a buffet? You go into a restaurant, you've got 6 people with you, and they tell you it's a price per head. Would you be willing to haggle it?
No.
No? Why not?
I think because it's like a luxury thing that you're actually paying quite a lot for anyway. I just go in bit thinking, okay, now I'm going to be paying quite a bit, so to get over it type thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think also you're with family, I assume, or friends, and that just makes it awkward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought so, but there we are.
Huh.
Okay.
I think my thought would be maybe in the past, but probably not now, because the restaurant business is under such pressures. When they do reopen, they're going to need every penny they can get.
Okay.
That would be my view on it at the moment, but that's very specific to this time and place that we're at with, obviously with COVID-19. Yeah.
Okay. What about a taxi ride? One of the examples is where somebody's haggling the price of their taxi.
Yeah, you see, I don't know what sort of level of income. I have less of a problem when, as I said earlier, when it's a conglomerate that you're trying to, maybe diminish some of their multi-million or billion-pound profits. But when it's a taxi driver or a restaurateur who's probably struggling to make a living themselves. Yeah.
I think the issue that I have with it, if it's a taxi ride, usually you would be haggling after you've already arrived because that's built up the fare, and I think that's very, very cheeky because they can't just take you back and be like, okay, I'm not going to bring you anymore.
Yeah.
If you're haggling prior to the exchangement, then that makes sense to me. But receiving their thing and then being like, oh no, I'm going to pay you a bit less, is very I don't approve of that at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So what I also wanted to chat to you about is about whether you had any money saving tips that you did, or whether you kind of, I also wanted to chat to you about this whole idea of make, do and mend, about whether it's actually worth making, do and mending anymore, because there is a lot of things that can be bought so cheaply, for example, cheap fashion or furniture from IKEA and things like that, and whether is it worth repairing stuff? Are we losing the skills by not repairing the stuff we've got? So I wanted to chat to you about all those things.
Yeah, I think that's very sad to say that we are losing a lot of skills that we used to have. The repair industry is no longer there, is it? People used to repair everything. And you mentioned fashion, and then I'll shut up, let the others speak. I think the fashion industry is probably the most wasteful industry of all, because you buy it cheap. Often, budget fashion is, I think, an awful thing. If people are earning pennies per hour to make this product, and you're, buying 3 t-shirts for $5 or something, and then next month the fashion industry tells you, oh, you need a different one because that's not cool anymore. And so people are throwing away clothes like nobody's business because it's no longer fashionable. I think that's very sad. It's quite wasteful. Yeah, when we're living in a world with finite resources, not infinite resources, I think we need to be a little bit more thoughtful about what we spend our money on and how we can reuse things and recycle, repair things. Yeah.
Just another stat to scare you.
I'll get off my hobby horse now. Let somebody else. Yeah, go for your stat.
That's all right. I'll share the stat to scare you. So the Times, again, it's back to 2018. I guess people haven't been looking at the stats for not last year because they've been a little bit busy. But in 2018, the UK threw away £12.5 billion worth of clothes, which is effective of £500 for every household. And basically, over half of those were perfectly wearable. So they didn't bother donating them; they just threw them away. And 1 in 10 of those people threw them away and said it was because they were really cheap to buy in the first place. It's a little bit scary. There we are.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you are, £500 down in your bin. Who'd have thought it?
But it's biodegradable, so it's okay. Is it?
What about the resources that it costs to make it in the first place? You know, they're not reusable, are they? Often, you know.
No, that's true. Yeah.
It rots in a landfill somewhere.
I think in every industry there's resources that are used that are irreplaceable, but it's how much do you actually have to use those resources? So,
like the mobile phone industry, Devon.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, some very valuable resources in every mobile phone that we have.
Yeah, definitely.
Like gold.
Yeah, I think so.
Lithium.
Oh, cool.
Lithium, that's the one. Yeah, batteries. I just quickly wanted to share, if you're in doubt of any of this, I can highly recommend a film called Greed, with a Steve Coogan film that came out just before lockdown. I saw it at the cinema. One of the last films I saw. It's a funny film, but very thought-provoking film, all about the fashion industry and wealth and greed. You know, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he plays a despicable character, but it's very well played and very funny. Yeah, Greed, Greed.
Yeah, I think I
Try
heard
and
about
catch
it.
it on DVD or streaming service whenever it's available. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, carry on, Beth. Sorry, unless you finished.
No, that's fine. What about you guys, Devon and Ford? Do you have any money saving tips that you would like to share, or any views on make, do, amend at all?
I'm not incredible at saving money. I'm okay, but not amazingly good. I think if you've got money, like money's there to be used. I think obviously you should save and you should not be ridiculous with it. But if you're living so skimpily that it's actually having a negative impact on people around you, then I think that's not very good. So I could not go out to eat ever again and save a lot of money, but that wouldn't be very nice to myself and to my wife. I think we have these things to use and to enjoy, rather than just trying to get the most amount of money possible. I don't really have any tips. I don't know. Get a kebab instead of Domino's. Save £7. There you go.
Our chip shop is really cheap. It's nice.
And local.
Yeah, look, it's just around the corner for us. Perfect.
3 doors away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, living 3 doors away from a chip shop. One thought I just had, when you go back to something, I think you said, Beth, about something you can save £700 and something a year by haggling.
£725, yeah.
Yeah, and then Ford said, "Oh, you could go on holiday with that," which give me. Did you say, Ford, you can go on holiday with that?
Yeah, I did.
Right,
Yeah. Well, I thought, well, that's a good thing then, isn't it? Because that's generating more business for somebody else, the holiday company, not the hotelier or the airline or the restaurants that you go to whilst on holiday, or even the campsite if you're not keen to go abroad anymore. So there are positives to saving money, because it gives you the ability, the spending power, to be a blessing, or a commercial blessing to another organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe my view has been slightly. Maybe I should try harder.
Wow.
To save some money so I can spend it somewhere else.
I think the only issue is people who save money and just sit on it, and they're not actually saving for anything particular. They're just sitting on it because they're obsessed with getting more money.
Yeah. For the purposes of greed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you guys have. I mean, literally, it's like you've been reading my notes. It's quite lovely.
Okay.
Which is really, really great. I mean, for some of the things that I found on Extreme Cheapskates have really amazed me in terms of questioning what's essential. So, like for example, somebody had broken their shower head. Now they could have gone out and bought a new one, but what they decided to do was get a plastic bottle and stab holes in it, and that would effectively be their shower head. Now it still works.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that makes me sit and think.
Yeah, I love fixing things. Yeah.
Yeah, there you are. So
if
you
ever you
think,
can.
where's the line?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
What do you class as essential that you are?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It might be good for a quick fix, yeah, but I think I'd rather have a shower head that is designed to do its purpose rather than, yeah. But good example of ingenuity.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Wow, very good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Interesting. I'm sure we could have talked about that for a lot longer. Thank you, Beth.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
worries.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Devon's segment. Subject.
Okay, so on to my segment, I assume. I wanted to talk to you all today about something that I've been thinking about quite a lot. As you probably are aware, in the world right now there's a big conversation surrounding the term Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
What have you guys' first impressions of this been?
Oh. Somebody else go first. Go on.
I think what's important about what you've just said is about the fact that it's supposed to be a conversation, and I think it's been very. I mean, I've been having lots of chats with people at work. It's been very emotive for some people, and obviously there have been people who've taken it to protesting and even getting a little bit violent with it. And I think that's where you start to get grey areas, because although, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying difficult conversations shouldn't be had, but it's about trying to keep it constructive rather than destructive. And what ends up happening is you get people who say, well, actually, I fundamentally, I understand what they're talking about, but I don't want to agree with them because I don't condone their behaviour. So you kind of get down that route where, you know, you get people who are, you know, behaving in a way that's just not helpful. Yeah, that's my first initial thoughts on that, but go ahead.
Quite frankly, I didn't realize that we had the capacity to get this angry about anything anymore, if you know what I mean. Because there's so many bad things going on in the world in so many different places. I don't know. On the one hand, I feel like it's a good thing that we're not actually that hard-hearted. But I don't really know the motives, I suppose. It's a bit hard to say, because you see these Black Lives Matters on their website. They talk about
defund
the police.
Yeah.
Which obviously that's, well, maybe not obviously, but I feel like that's a really bad idea. You know, you can't take money away from the people who are supposed to protect the people.
Yeah, that phrase I think has been slightly misunderstood, and at the risk we don't want to go political with this, the defunding the police is about reorganising funding for police that at the moment, I think this is particularly in the in Americas, the police are doing more than just policing. They're social working as well, and so that's an element of what they do would be better done by other organisations. So they're saying reorganise the funding for the police so that the police just do policing, and then allow the other structures, you know, to help with societal issues outside of law enforcement. I think that's where that phrase comes from, but that's a sidetrack to the Black Lives Matter, I think. I'm concerned in some areas about about what I see on the news. Everybody, I think, apart from the avid racists, would be appalled by what we saw, what's kicked all this off with George Floyd, and the response to that is an important conversation. I am concerned about the use of violence and the way in which now we are re-evaluating history, probably in an unhelpful way. Looking at media that has been produced in a different era and a different age. Yes, there are some TV shows that should never be shown and will not be shown again because they were produced in the 70s and there was a very different attitude towards race issues then. But I think historical statues and things like that, although they were put up at a different time with a different understanding around them, I'm far more in favour of adding new information, new viewpoints to those statues to educate people rather than to hide and destroy. Maybe some statues should be in a museum rather than in a town centre or a plaza somewhere, you know. But that's how I feel, and I'm always opposed to vandalism and destruction and violence. So yeah, and I think particularly at this time when we've still got a very virulent, deadly virus in the community, to go out there and not social distance on a protest is very irresponsible. There are better ways of making our feelings heard, or our demands heard, and our feelings felt. Yeah, yeah, that's my bit. But sorry, Devon, if I've taken too much or gone too far with that.
That's perfect. Thank you. There's a lot of what all of you say that I agree with for sure. Some things I disagree, but there's a lot of what I do agree. I've just like Beth, I've listened to a lot of people's opinions and I've asked a lot of questions myself. And I know we avoid political issues on this channel and overly controversial issues, but I've come to realize that it's not political. I wanted to talk about the humanitarian issue that is
social,
going on, the social humanitarian issue.
Yeah, thank you.
Obviously, there is the group, the political group Black Lives Matter, and they demand certain things, like we say, the defunding of the police, or some people say abolition of the police even.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But what I'm actually really interested in, and what I think we should be interested in, is the testimony from our black brothers and sisters and how we respond to their testimony.
Okay.
Because as we say, like, no one can deny your testimony. If you say I have experienced this, what is our reaction? I'll prove it. Is saying prove this testimony, or you're opening up about your suffering to me about something. My first instinct is to go, well, I'm like that too, or oh, you need to prove this. That's not very Christ-like. And I've listened to a lot of people, because my first instinct has been, why are you rioting? Why are you shouting? Prove that you haven't got these rights, or whatever it is. It hasn't been to understanding their experience. I think that's something that I'm guilty of. There's obviously a lot of anger and a lot of noise, and I've been trying to work out where it is unjust and where it is righteous anger. Because obviously there's a difference. I don't think violence towards people is ever just. In the cases that's happened, obviously, apart from self-defense.
I agree.
But obviously there's still a lot of righteous anger from people speaking and talking about their experiences or experiences of their family that, of course, they would be angry about. I don't think there's an issue with that. As I say, Black Lives Matter is very political, but I'm using it in this segment as a statement rather than a name of a group. And I think that's another issue, that people say Black Lives Matter in the name of the statement, but actually referring to the group. So I think if people weren't going around destroying statues whilst chanting Black Lives Matter, we wouldn't put them two together. We would have the people who actually want to have a conversation about Black lives, and the people who are violent, rather than in the same thing.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
True.
I think right now is the best time to be having these conversations. And I've been, obviously that's why I haven't actually talked about it before on a podcast, because I've been trying to actually think of what I actually mean, what I want to say, because obviously it's very important. And I've worked out that it's about trying to gain a perspective of the struggles of your brother, which just can't be a bad thing.
No.
It's gaining perspective.
No, definitely not.
As I say, I was guilty of not trying to gain that perspective, of actually just thinking, well, where's your proof that actually happened, or that is actually a racial thing rather than just a negative thing. And if your neighbour's telling you that they're experiencing injustice, then our first response as Christians should be love, I think.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because what is that telling people? Because obviously, a lot of Christians are inherently right-wing, I've found. And obviously, right-wing politically can be going against a lot of the things that are going on right now along the Black Lives Matter movement. So what kind of example does that show of Christians when our first response is not love? I think. So I think what I've listened to a lot of black people, and the ones that are actually looking for change are the ones who are saying that they just want someone to come close to them and ask them how they've felt during this time and what we can do personally to help. Not like donating to Black Lives Matter organization or anything like that, but what can I do? What have I done personally to this person, or what could I do better? And you can choose if you want to do that or not. It's all about the understanding the perspective, I think. And obviously, if you do want to donate, and I'd recommend reading what the goals are of the organisation before doing that, for sure. But yeah, that's basically me. There's obviously there's a lot going on, a lot of bad things, but I think also a lot of good things. I think in all this uprooting, a lot of experiences are being shown to the light, and obviously that's a very good thing, because then people are aware of them when they see them in their daily life.
Yeah,
that's me.
I think it's very it's hard, isn't it, because you don't want to admit that it's still going on, because you kind of sit there and think, well, surely we've got beyond this, and you kind of want to shut it off, don't you? But actually, when you are faced with those people and you hear some of the things they have to say, you do just sit there and say, wow, have I how come I've missed this? And you're right, you sit there and think, I shouldn't have missed this, and actually I don't want to miss this, and I do want to stand with you. It's definitely an important thing.
It is a huge subject, and thank you for bringing it to us, Devon. I think it's important that we hear this, and as you say, the conversation is the most important thing.
I think it's important not to assume that because a black person is coming to you with telling about their struggles, it's important not to assume that is related to taking down statues or rioting or whatever.
Yes, that's right.
You take someone at face value of what they are saying, not part of some big group. Because I think that's more personal, it's more individual to their personal experience. I don't know, what do you think, Ford?
That sounds good and fair.
I think it's important for us as Christians to be prayerful about all this as well, and prayerful about how we can be a positive, have a positive response to it, to the whole subject of racial inequalities, because from a God's perspective, we are all the same colour. There is no difference between our skin colours, is it? Because he looks at the spirit and the heart. So we should, as Christians, respond in the same way. Thank you, Devon.
Yeah, I'll stop there.
Paps segment. Subject.
Right. Is it me next?
Yeah,
very good. And because of time, I'm just going to pick up on my segment from last episode, which was a glossary of terms for video games.
Yes.
If you remember. Part 1. So this is part 2. I'm just going to pick up on a couple. We got up to around about the letter G last time with our glossary of terms. So there's a couple that we did miss on the G's that I wanted to mention, and a couple of F's that I forgot to mention. So I'm going to shout them out, and then anybody who wants to can pick them up. Okay. So
quiz show. Here we go.
It is kind of.
Ready.
I think, Beth, did you hear the last episode?
I certainly did.
Good. So you're familiar with what we were discussing. Okay, so how about the word or term farming, or grinding. I don't think we discussed that in the last show, did we?
No.
No, farming/grinding, an F and a G there. I think they both mean the same thing. Who'd like to explain to me what that means?
I'll let the other guys go first.
Oh, don't let me go first. I don't know. I was so ready. I was like, yes, but no, I don't know.
Well, look, I'll tell you what then. With each of these, we'll go to Beth first in case she knows it.
I got camping last time.
You did get camping. Well done. Yeah. Ford.
I believe you farm and grind with the same implement. You just have to work real hard and hit the floor. I'd say. That's my advice to you.
I know that.
Yeah.
Back-breaking work in a field. Is that what
it really is? Yeah.
Yeah. Before the implementation of tractors. Yeah. Okay, as usual, Devon, would you like to tell us what the real meaning of farming and grinding is?
They're very similar but slightly different.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Go on then.
For farming, that is used a lot in MOBAs. So when you say I'm going to go farm, it means you're going to go
what?
kill.
Sorry.
In
what?
MOBAs? They're like massive. I forget what it stands for, but like arena games like League of Legends or Dota 2, where you're like very far above the character, controlling it by clicking places.
Okay, like a God Sim type game.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But they're very competitive against other people. So you use farming in that sense to be, I'm going to go farm. It means you're going to try and kill a lot of the smaller people to get a lot of money. And just focus on doing that. So
you spend a long time.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
No.
Is that where the grinding comes in?
Exactly. So for grinding, it could be, it's usually in MMORPGs you would grind a lot. Or when
you're
using
trying phrases that you need to explain. Come on.
Massive multiplayer online role-playing game.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is. Oh,
too
I've got
fast.
that.
MMORPGs.
Yeah. So when you have a certain item that you want, and it takes a lot of time to do it, and a lot of repetitive things to do it, then that's what people call it, getting on the grind or grinding for it. Or if you're playing a ranked game and you're trying to achieve a certain rank, I'm going to go on this grind to try and get this rank, to keep pushing, keep going over and over and over again to try and get there.
Okay, repetitive gaming. Repetitive.
Grinding is very competitive. That's why it's the grind.
Yeah. So you're having to do the same thing over and over again to up your levels or to achieve a certain goal. Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Respect the grind.
And just to clarify, in case you didn't hear, MMO is massive multiplayer online. Yeah.
Yep. RPG
game, and RPG is a role-playing game where you take on the role of a character, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. What about this? Here's one easy one for you. FPS.
First-person shooter. Yeah.
Well done. Well done, Beth.
Is there a prize? No.
Yeah. It could be frames per second as well, isn't it, Devon?
Oh,
Yep, it is.
very good.
Hey?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that the bonus question? Well done.
But I think mostly we'd recognise it as being a first-person shooter. Yeah. Okay.
I suppose that depends on context, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay then. And what would be a good FPS frames per second, Devon?
I mean, if you're on console, you're looking 30 to 60.
30 to 60 frames per second. Okay.
In the PC Master Race, you'll be looking about 120 is good for you.
That's top end, is it?
I like to get 300 for my competitive stuff.
You do what?
300 frames per second. Yeah.
300's top end. Wow.
I mean, you can get more than that as well, but that's what I try and achieve. Yeah, and I do regularly. Yeah,
wow.
I mostly get a stable 300 frames per second on my.
It's a much more responsive gaming experience, which you need if you're playing a FPS. You need good FPS, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Nice,
fabulous. Right, okay then. Here's one for Beth. Let's start with you, Beth. GG.
Good game.
Hey.
Yeah.
Good game.
Oh.
What about GGWP?
James J. So good game, no rematch. Is that right?
No,
WP.
WP. Yeah, at the end. GGWP.
Well played. Well played.
Well
Yeah.
played. Well done. Well played.
played.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got Tim's voice in my head saying GG,
Have
no
it-
real. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
yeah. So these are little abbreviated things you might type in or you could say GG, don't you? A lot of people do say GG.
Yeah, they should.
People do that.
Is it naughty?
Yeah.
Lazy?
It's the English language.
Yeah. Okay. If you want to add any humour don't hold back. Okay.
Yeah.
Funny.
It's not just my job, you know.
Yeah. I have
You're
got
so
a few.
good.
Couple more. Okay, Beth, you're first up. Ready? Loot box. LWOT box. Loot box. It's a gaming term often used.
I'm afraid I've no idea, to be honest.
Okay, that's
on that
fine.
one.
That's fine. So Ford.
Yeah, I think this is when you get so sick of gaming that you decide to run into someone's house and steal their jewelry. I'd say. And someone would say you've looted their box.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go into their dressing room, go into their bedroom and look in their dressing table and nick their jewellery. Okay.
What, do you really not
Okay.
know what it
Well
means?
known.
Thank you.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
Make-
you
make
do
a
know
note
what
of
it means,
that.
so why you...
All right, Devon's the voice of reason again. Come on,
Okay,
Devon.
it's basically gambling for kids.
Gambling for kit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loot box is a in-game item that you can purchase for real money, and it will give you a random item inside the game.
Yeah.
So it could be very good,
Okay.
and it could be very bad.
Very frustrating.
Lottery,
Yeah.
Right, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
On that subject, how do we feel about those additional? Do people do that? I mean, I play a couple of games that I have paid real money for because I've enjoyed the game experience so much. It was free to download, and I want the game to continue, so I don't mind paying $1.99 to remove the ads or to get an extra boost. But I wouldn't go more than that. I don't think, because then I feel like I'm cheating other players who are not able to pay by gaining too much of an advantage.
The thing with loot boxes is they're mostly cosmetic, so they don't really affect your gameplay. But a lot of people do it a lot. Yeah, lots of money.
They call them
very expensive.
in-game purchases, don't they?
Yes,
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Let's move on quickly. Mob. MOB. Beth. Mob.
It's not mission objective, is it?
No.
Let's
Guess.
know.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Not off the top of my head.
Okay. It's great having you here to bounce these off. Yeah. Thank you, Beth. You're the voice of the listener who are not necessarily gamers, but you are a gamer. But
There you go.
fixed very clearly, as you said back in the.
Back in the day. Nice the
Yeah.
old public stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Before the internet was a thing with games. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Ford.
I don't really have a joke for this one. I believe it's just a bad guy. Tends not to be that hard. They just roam around in an area, and you go in there, and that's how you'd farm or grind. I suppose you'd be slamming on them.
Minecraft is a good example for this, isn't it? The mob.
I think it's almost exclusively used in Minecraft.
Is it? Is that the term from Minecraft? I mean, I think it comes from the word mobile, so they're mobile enemies that are not other real players. They're just non-playing characters. What's that? NPC, isn't it? NPCs, but with less character, I suppose. A mob doesn't have an actual character, does it?
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning so much today. Look at that.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah. Okay. Finally, ready, Beth?
I'll try.
Yeah. Putting you up on the spot, haven't we? PvP. PvP.
Oh dear.
Capital P, lowercase v, capital P.
All I can think of is MVP, which is most valuable player. So
Oh, very good.
It might be something like that.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
But wrong.
Your logic's good,
It's
but-
brilliant, but it's wrong.
but wrong. But wrong. Yeah.
Go on then, enlighten me. Go for it.
Ford.
That's player versus player.
Well done.
Yes.
Oh.
You've ran out of humour, haven't you, today?
Yeah, no, you put too much pressure on me. I'm out.
You also
Thank you.
have PVM, Player vs Monster, or PVW, Player vs World.
Okay, yeah.
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 So lots of different things. Yeah.
So in terms of PvP, it's when you are playing against a real other player rather than a computer-generated player. Yeah.
But that term's normally used in MMORPGs, even though technically it probably would apply to first-person shooters.
Yeah.
People don't normally talk about that.
Or space
FPSs.
games.
Yeah, or space
Or
games.
space. Yeah, like Elite Dangerous, of course.
That's an MMORPG, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Cool.
I never refer to it as that, but that is what it is. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll leave it at that.
Excellent. Nice.
We may come back because I'm only on the P's, so we're still got some more to go. There will be a third episode of this. Thank you. I hope it's helpful.
It's very helpful for me.
Good. Yeah. Not likely to play first-person shooter, are you, Beth? But you, at least you know what people are talking about now.
I mean, I've had a go, but to be completely honest, I struggle with the motion sickness element. So,
Yeah.
as I say, I can turn around and say, "What did you say?" Yeah.
Yeah. If you struggle with the motion sickness on a flat screen, try it in virtual reality. What's it called?
Virtual reality.
Oh,
Virtual reality.
lovely.
VR. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
VR.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, maybe that's more realistic. Maybe it would be easier. I don't know. Yeah. Some people do find motion sickness in VR, don't they? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
you.
Good job.
Nice.
It's homework time and goodbye.
So all that remains to do, I do feel like I've talked far too much in this episode, and everybody says, "Isn't that the same as always?" All that remains for us to do is to announce our homework for the next episode, which is to watch a film.
Yeah.
Yes. Who's going to tell us what film we're going to watch? Somebody tell me.
It's Hitchhikers film. I think
Hitchhikers
it's Hitchhikers Guide to the Galaxy.
This is where I'm very cheeky and say, "Is it black and white?"
No.
Was it
I'll never have it back.
2012?
So the film came out
2005. Wow.
in 2005. Yeah.
Wow, that's older than I thought.
Wow.
15
So it is
years
black and
ago.
white.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So that is what we will have hopefully achieved and done, and have conversation to talk about before our next episode, episode 21. How did we do for episode 20, folks?
Did quite well.
Hey.
So
All right.
quite the milestone.
A milestone.
well
It
done.
really has been a pleasure to continue on this journey. Who knows when it will end?
Oh.
Yeah. So we've
Soon
set our
enough.
homework. So all that remains now is for me to sum up by saying you can hear us on all the major platforms, including all the major podcast platforms, and also on YouTube. And you can also connect with us on Twitter via the handle at Theory of Anything. That's TING at the end. And you can email us. Remember, if you want to order one of those very special t-shirts, you can
Very
contact
special.
us via email, theoryofanything@hotmail.com.
Yay.
Wow.
Nice. Go for it. Yeah.
Thank you, Beth,
Yes.
for your
Thank
input.
You.
Thank
It's
you
been good fun. Thank
for
you.
being our very special guest on this milestone episode. We look forward to your continued inputs, whether it be via voice or emails and responses to our often regular queries.
These names forward. No, you can't say that.
Yeah, there's
What?
a lot
Sorry?
of that. Yeah.
Lots of censorship.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, very good.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Yeah.
gents.
Thank
Any
you.
final words from anybody?
Thank you and good night.
Oh,
That's all, folks.
Devon Ford.
Bye.
Well, till we see you around the microphone again next time.
Lovely.
Bye.
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 Hi again. It's just me here for a little one-to-one. I know this is a bit abnormal for our podcast, but myself and the team have decided that after 20 episodes, we really like to give anyone listening a chance to respond to what we've said. As you're aware, if you listen to a good few of our episodes, Dad, Ford, and I are all Christians. We talk about things that matter to us, so naturally spiritual matters come up in our conversation. If you've listened to anything we've said about our personal faith with Jesus and you've wanted that too, then in a few moments I'm going to talk you through how to get that individual relationship with God. As I say, from the past 20 episodes, we haven't tried to force our own faith on anyone, and I'm still not now at all. It's just a moment for you if you have been wanting that relationship with God just like we have. In Romans 6:23 it says that the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus. So as this is a free gift, there are no qualifications in order to be eligible or punishments for our past mistakes. All we have to do is be open to receive the gift, and in that receive Jesus into our lives. So if you're wanting that, and you are open to that, then follow me in this prayer. Either say what I say out loud, or just think it in your head. Lord God, thank you for loving me. Thank you for inviting me into your family. I am sorry for my mistakes in my life. Thank you for your endless mercy. Lord, I want to know you personally, so please come into my life. Make yourself home in my heart, and be with me as I live to honor you. Amen. So if you've just prayed that with me, then welcome to the family. It's an amazing time. There's lots that obviously we can talk about, there's lots we can do. If you have just prayed that with me, and you've obviously meant it in your heart, then drop us an email privately or whatever you feel comfortable with. Let us know and we can talk with you about things and all sorts. Also, I suggest just a personal preference. If you're wanting to know more and wanting to delve a bit deeper and see what this is all about, then obviously the Bible is pretty good, but specifically I would recommend the book of John in the Bible. Definitely. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.